Today we are going to look at what to do if we think we need to change someone's mind to achieve our objectives. Let's get at it. Hi, I'm Glenn from Tyra. You can reach me at tyrastrategies.com. If you work in an organization, you will regularly run into someone in that organization that disagrees with a plan, a course of action, or a proposal that you're making. When that happens, and you're committed to your strategy, there are many approaches you can take to push through. You can ignore their viewpoint and push ahead with the hope that they are not that committed and will not actively engage in dissension. You can apply power dynamics using your position or the position of someone who agrees with you to force your proposal through. Or you can attempt to overpower them by lobbying stakeholders and other influencers to build overwhelming momentum. Depending on the corporate culture of the organization, your abilities, and your position, any of these may be effective in achieving your goal, but they do run a very real risk. They may create a longer-term enemy, or they may start a conflict that goes beyond the issue at hand, impacting multiple interactions in the organization. So, how about, rather than forcing our views, we engage them to get them on side? Can we get them to actually change their mind? Can we win them over to fully supporting our approach? The answer is probably no. That is, if we have in mind using our persuasion skills to overwhelm them with facts and data to convince them that they are wrong and we are right. No matter how airtight the data is, using a brute force approach to change somebody's mind is likely to fail. Many people know this from experience. But to fully understand why this is so, and to identify how we can be successful, we need to understand how they likely arrived at their position. In most cases, it was not through a deep understanding and rational evaluation of all possible approaches. They most likely did not evaluate the data and the facts at their disposal when they arrived at their position. More likely, their position was developed under the strong influence of what we refer to as the Four Horsemen of bad decision-making. They are cognitive biases, group dynamics, corporate cultural biases, and uncertainty analysis noise. Tyra has online courses and workshops that delve deeply into this, but let's take a quick look at how these impact the way people make decisions and develop positions. It is a common belief that when faced with the need to decide, we use a completely rational evaluation process. We carefully identify all the possible options and evaluate each one against a structured and rational list of needs and wants. Based on that analysis, we choose the option that best meets our needs. However, research in behavioral science has taught us that we normally don't make decisions that way. Instead, we allow our subconscious mind to rapidly review available options and bring forward one that seems to be most preferable. We then consciously and unconsciously look for reasons that that option is the right one. The choice we make is heavily impacted by what is referred to as availability bias. Availability bias leads us to select an option that is, for one reason or another, more front of mind. If I say soft drink and you think Coke, then you have been affected by all the advertising that Coke does to affect your availability bias. Their hope is that when you think, I'd like a soft drink, your availability bias converts that into, I need a Coke. Whether it is an article that you just read, a conversation you recently had, an advertisement that you saw, there are somewhat random factors that make some things more front of mind than others. This affects all decisions that people make and heavily impacts the selection of the initial preferred option. Selecting a preferred option using availability bias leaves one exposed to choosing a suboptimal position and open to making bad or incomplete decisions. We need to be aware that the person whose mind we are trying to change has likely used this approach to select their preferred option. Next, he or she has likely been affected by confirmation bias. This is our tendency to ignore information that would suggest our decision is bad and weigh highly any information that suggests our decision is good. If we supply information that is contrary to their choice, confirmation bias will lead them to either ignore that data or discount it in some fashion. Therefore, we will likely fail to change their beliefs if we rely on delivering facts and figures. Beyond that, he or she has also likely been affected by group dynamics and corporate culture. People in power may have influenced the position. Group discussions may lead them to hold a more extreme position than they'd hold on their own. Their position in and the relationship with others in the group may be leading them to hold a position as popular in the group, but which may not represent the best decision for the organization. Their relationship with you and or your group may be coloring their choice of preferred options. The organization's corporate culture is also likely to affect their choices. People that work together for an extended period of time tend to develop common ways of thinking. This may lead them to reject or not even be aware of good selections because they just don't fit in the organization's normal cultural practices. Finally, uncertainty analysis noise will certainly be affecting them. Everyone has a base of experience and training that colors the way they see an issue. Someone trained as, say, an engineer will see a problem differently than someone trained as a medical practitioner. These experiences and training affect our judgment of risk associated with any proposed solution. Interestingly, familiarity may either increase our perceived risk because we know everything that can go wrong, or it may reduce our evaluation of risk because we assume we understand everything that could go wrong. This is the reason we refer to it as uncertainty noise. We know that it has an effect, but we can't predict how it will impact someone's judgment. So, to summarize, the person whose mind we need to change has likely come to their position in a less than rational way. They are busy defending it by looking only at information that supports that position, and their perspective has been colored by the corporate culture, training, and experience. At this point, bombarding them with the facts and expecting them to come around is not likely to be an effective strategy. But before we look at a better way to change their mind, there's one other question we need to answer. What we just described as the factors that affect how people reach and hold a position is likely a good description of how you have arrived at the position you're holding. So, before we start working on changing someone else's mind, let's make certain that we should not change our own. So how do we know that our position or our plan is the right one? An office environment is usually bad in that it tends to support and enable the four horsemen that we just described. The focus on getting things done and the constant distractions tend to make us fall prey to biases and leap to quick decisions. Then, group dynamics and conflicting agendas push us to defend our choice solutions at all costs. But there are a few things we can do to test our assumptions and decisions. Most of these take time, so the approach you choose will depend on the importance of the decision being made. This is not an exhaustive list, but it'll give you an idea of the ways to test your thinking and manage the impact of the four horsemen. First, an effective but time-consuming way is to explain your position and rationale to somebody outside the organization who is not knowledgeable of the circumstances or the context surrounding the decisions. Have them ask questions. Make certain that you spend at least 2 to 3 hours at this so that you get beyond the superficial. Explain it in detail, fully answer all questions, and explore any assumptions. Watch for places where you become defensive or suffer cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance occurs when you are confronted with 2 or more conflicting pieces of information that all appear to be equally true. What happens with cognitive dissonance is that the subconscious mind has effectively given up. That leaves the slow, logical mind to try and work it out. But at the same time, there's a need to come up with an answer quickly. One becomes speechless and unable to find a way forward. If during your explorations you suddenly find yourself frustrated and unable to explain, stop, then back up and explore whether the point is rational and that your assumptions are valid. Take it as an opportunity to look for and evaluate other alternatives. Secondly, write it down. Putting the plan on paper and critically evaluating what you're writing will often highlight areas where cognitive biases have led to inconsistencies and subconscious leaps. Look for assumptions and leaps in logic. Update your writing to close any gaps, and if that becomes impossible or difficult, then rethink alternatives. Thirdly, you can evaluate your decision and position in an open mode thinking session. Open mode and closed modes are different ways of thinking that balance creativity with execution. Most of the time in an office environment, we exhibit closed mode thinking, which is action and results oriented. Open mode thinking, on the other hand, allows creative thinking to occur. It engages the power of your subconscious mind to creatively suggest options that can be explored by your logical mind. This is too large a topic to fully describe here, but it is covered in our online courses on decision making, and you can also find information on the internet by searching for open mode thinking. Finally, play devil's advocate. Have someone argue from your point of view while you try and argue against your proposal. This helps overcome confirmation bias as it forces you to identify and confront negative points relative to your proposed solution. You will note that there is nothing here about trying to gain consensus in group meetings. Group dynamics, including power dynamics and group polarization, mean that group activities tend not to be good ways to evaluate the rationale basis for a decision. So, let's say that you've now tested your thoughts and are now comfortable that your proposal is the right one and is the best for the organization. How do you change the mind of someone who is not on side and has different ideas? We've already identified that brute presentation of facts is not likely to be successful. Confirmation bias will mean that the person will emotionally refute any facts you present or will just simply ignore them. Given enough time and enough facts, you might be effective, but in most instances, you will not be afforded either the time or enough goodwill to succeed. To successfully get to a common understanding with someone who disagrees with your position, you need to move them past their blind spots created by the Four Horsemen of bad decision making. To do that, you first need to create an atmosphere of trust that allows them the space to change their mind. To create that space, you need to start by assuming that the person you are engaging has something relevant to say. In other words, you're not there to explain to him or her the facts. You're there to engage in a two-way exchange of ideas. This will often present them with their first cognitive dissonance. They expected a fight, and instead you offer dialogue. Since you are comfortable that your ideas are well constructed and well thought through, it is easy to honestly engage their ideas. Respect them, probe them, explore how they could work, and under what assumptions. Remember, all decisions are trade-offs. Explore the trade-offs associated with their ideas relative to the trade-offs associated with your decision. How you proceed next may depend on your position and power. If you are the person who must make the decision, then it is possible at this point to state that you recognize the different options and trade-offs, but need to make a decision. If you can roll some aspect of their position into the decision, then it is likely that they, having been honestly heard and engaged, will support your decision. If you are not in the position of making the final decision, then this may be a good time to engage in a group activity. Bring a group together, not to make the decision, but to enter into a discussion around the topic of which trade-offs are most acceptable. With this discussion, there is room for a meeting of the minds to occur. The final position may be your position. It may be a hybrid position based on useful input from the other person or persons. And in some cases, because you're in open dialogue, you may find that they were right all along and you need to change your mind. These all need to be seen as good and valid outcomes as they are delivering the best solution for the organization. It needs to be noted that this approach assumes that there is a healthy decision-making environment in the organization. If there isn't, then the much larger job of fixing the environment needs to be undertaken before any attempt at serious engagement can be successful. This is a major undertaking that requires very strong understanding of decision-making and the factors that promote good decision-making. Tyra's online course, Building an Effective Decision-Making Organization, provides the information that you need for that task. Beyond that, Tyra has workshops to help you identify your organization's specific needs and help you develop a plan to move the organization forward. You can find information about our workshops on our website and the description of our online courses at Tyra Online. I've put links to both below. If you have anything to add to the discussion, please add them in the comments below. And if you'd like additional information, please visit our website or email us at info@tyrastrategies.com. As usual, like or subscribe, and since we promise not to deliver videos on a regular schedule, hit the bell to be notified about the next one. Bye for now.